So today I'm here to explain to you what an array is, and I'm using C++ to explain this. So an array is a contiguous block of memory. What this means is that it stores memory beside each other, unlike some other data structures, and you can access the values of it via index, which makes it really fast to access, but the downside is that it's fixed size. So let's start. So as you can see from the syntax of this array, we declared an int and its variable name called r with the size of 5. So what makes this an array is the square brackets. So how do we access the values inside of an array? Well, we use them, we access them using an index. So once you declare your array, you can now use those square brackets to actually input what kind of index you want to access. So let's say we want to put 1 here and index 0, aka the very beginning. By the way, index starts at 0 and ends at n minus 1, n being your actual size. So, yeah. Now, this declares that in the index 0 of the array called R, the first index or index 0 stores the value of 1. That's what it basically means. And arrays are really useful when you want to access something fast or when you want to store things that have the same like attribute, like let's say users wants to enter like a name, and every user has a name that you need to access. So instead of like making a separate or like declaring a separate variable called name, and what if the user needs another name? So we can just do like this. Yes, it's good. Well, not really, but that's a way, but it's not really efficient as it actually makes it unique. And with an array, you just have to call the array name and just call it by index instead of just naming it, because we are prone to error when we actually name variable names. Eventually, you'll make a mistake. And since it's an array, we can actually use it and access it like using a for loop. This size I plus plus. So we don't really need to declare this anymore. Let's say I want to put values inside of the array. And okay, let's try that. So call the array I, then equal it to I. We want to store those values. So due to this loop, we can access any array index and will return us that value. My bad. Let's access 0. Okay, this should work. Let's run. Set. You can also try again, like let's access 4. Access 4. So what happens if we access like 6? It gives us 8. So what does that mean? Basically, when you go out of bounds on the index, let's say we place, we want to see array index 6. So that's not really in the bound of the actual array we created. So it will make or display some garbage values. So technically, we're accessing someone else's memory. But in this case, we're lucky enough that it's just garbage values. So if we try to run this again, it could be, if we run this, it could change. Or maybe the current garbage value is just at 8. So that's it. So again, arrays are just contiguous blocks of memory. They're fast accessed via index and they're fixed size. Well, we can make them into like a dynamic array, but that's a very different topic for this one. But this is the basics of an array. So if you were to create an array, the idea of making a dynamic array, I'll just introduce this. So let's say I have an array here, 5, and I've inputted 0, 1 to 5, and I wanted to increase it. So the idea is creating a new array and increasing the size, and then inputting all of the values in that array. That's it. Then now, this is just for like demonstration purposes. So we can just say int array if uh yeah, yeah, yeah. If I is less than 5, this is just my condition because I'm making this on the spot. So if I is less than 5, meaning the size of our index, then we will use this instead. Array to I equals array dash I. So we're technically copying the value of I. Then once it does not reach there, else we just copy whatever current array is. Um, so now this should basically copy every value inside of our array. So let's start accessing it. R2. I mean R2 index 0. It should give us a 0. Yep. So that's the idea of increasing an array. So the idea of like trying to make an array dynamic is by adding like predetermined size. I mean, let's say you have like you wanted to access like 5 size of ints, then a dynamic array would be like having like extra, let's say adding 5 for for every n to make sure it doesn't overflow. So every time the user reaches that maximum, you automatically increase it, but also transferring. So you have to actually add the values one by one. So that's O of n. And so far, that's my understanding. So again, you don't really have to take this at face value, but this is how just I want to express how to properly how I process information in programming, like fundamentals. I really don't know much of the syntax that much. I forgot about it. So yeah, the purpose of this video is mainly for me to like try to explain it in a way, just in a YouTube video. So yeah.